I'm currently working on my third book titled The Third Room, which will be published, hopefully, my plan is in the spring of 2027. People have asked me why that title, what does the third room mean? And that's what I want to tell you about. My mother was a heroin addict for much of my life, and she finally got clean before she passed away in 1995. While she was clean, she attended 12-step meetings and did all the things that she had always wanted to do. One of those things was to speak at a 12-step meeting in which I was in attendance. And I too was clean and sober at the time and had been a member of 12-step programs. So I was no stranger to being in a room and hearing a speaker. However, it was the first time I'd ever heard my mother or many of the things that she talked about because we didn't spend much of my childhood together. But when she spoke, she sat at the front of the room with her back straight and she looked at the crowd and she told us about her childhood, about her mother and how she was mentally ill, about her younger siblings and how she was responsible for taking care of them much of the time because of her mother's issues with mental health and alcoholism. She told the group about how they grew up in poverty and how she had this shame and she felt bad about herself. And, those things I knew. I had ideas about those things. She had told me stories, at points in my life. But then she looked at the group and she met the eyes of many of the people in the room as she told this story. She said, "It's like there are three rooms inside of me. The first room is immaculate. Anybody can come in and sit down, and we'll talk about idle, meaningless things like the weather, maybe politics, but probably not." She said, "Then there's the second room, and that's buried a little bit deeper. And in that room, there are a few people I trust that they can come in, because it's not as clean as the first room. It's a little bit dirty, and I'm not thrilled about anybody seeing it. And I'll let those people come in and sit down, and, we'll talk about things that are a little bit deeper, maybe how I think about something, or maybe something in my history that I'm not proud of." She said, "Then there's the third room, and that room is filthy and disorganized, and I won't let anybody in that room." She said, "That's the room that kept me a slave to heroin for all those years." And I knew exactly what she meant. I had felt that way my whole life. I could talk to anybody about anything. I was never shy. And then there was that second room, a little bit dirty, and I would let some people in, maybe here and there. But then there was that third room that I wouldn't let anybody in. Now, I told you I was clean and sober when I heard my mother speak, but I didn't stay that way. I did get clean again. And during that time, I got on with my life. I became educated and started a career and got married and had my third child, and just all kinds of things happened. But I still had that feeling on the inside. I still had that feeling that there was some things about me that I couldn't share with anybody. I still had that third room full of stuff, and I didn't know how to get rid of it. And because of that, I was unhappy. I was doing things and behaving in ways that weren't consistent with who I was. The way I talk about it is that saying that I've heard for years: staying clean, living dirty. That's where I was. That's what the last book was about. I needed to clean my third room. Not only did I need to make space for people to come in and sit down in my third room, but I needed to be able to let them. That's what this book is about.